or the regular session of the Yuma County Board of Supervisors. We're also sitting as all special taxing districts of March 18th, 19th. This is 9 a.m. and we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'll have Supervisor Pancrase lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Hey, from what I hear, the treasure, that tax sale went really well, so maybe I had to miss it more often. According to the vice chair, he said he sold a lot of tax deeds. I'll find out. Anyway, the first thing on the agenda is call to the public, and call to the public is held for the public's benefit to allow individuals to address issues within the board jurisdiction. Board members may not discuss items that are not specifically identified on the agenda. Therefore, pursuant to Arizona revised statutes, action taken as a result of public comment will be limited to directing staff to study the matter, responding to criticism, or scheduling the matter for further discussion and decision at a future date. Anybody here in the public? Sure, come up. Come on up.
Good morning, Chairman and members of the board. Susan Thorpe, County Administrator, and I would like to ask Tony Badia to join me at the podium.
Well,
I wanted to tell you about an accomplishment that Tony has recently achieved, and it's quite significant. Tony has now received his certificate in the Advanced Professional Series for Emergency Management, and he got that through Federal Emergency Management Agency as well as the state Arizona Department of Emergency Management and Military Affairs. And I wanted to present the certificate to Tony because it is quite an achievement. It's over probably between 75 and 100 hours of coursework. This is on top of the basic coursework that he's already taken with the various series that various individuals across the county take, but also he finished his professional development series, and now this is the advanced development professional series. So I wanted to recognize that time and effort that he's put into it.
when is he at work? Congratulations, folks. Spend a lot of hours training it.
Wait a minute.
Wait.
Speech.
Yeah, we need a speech. This is not a salary negotiation time, so, you know, you can say anything you want to right now.
I'm at work 24/7.
Yeah, that's good. That's what I wanted
Well,
to
we know
do.
the course.
I get calls at all times and check emails all the time, but this is actually for me, is another level of expertise that I can bring. I hope the training brings to Yuma County to get us better prepared, just like everything I ask you guys to do, some of the trainings I offer you guys. You guys also could achieve this. There's different levels. There's a professional series, and then this is the advanced series. So most of my staff, or actually all my staff, has already done the professional series, and now they're coordinating to do the advanced series. So there are different levels that you can attain by doing some of that training. So
You better be careful, because I hear the vice chair is getting into all kinds of trainings.
yeah, he's doing really well.
Flynn
Yeah.
Foundation, something or whatever, you know, leadership.
Leadership school he's going to. The
Yeah, he's
really
going to a
prestigious
special school.
so,
A school
yeah.
for special people.
Maybe I can set my goals that high someday. So, but thank you guys for your support. Without your support and the support of the county administration, I wouldn't be able to do these type of things, and my staff wouldn't be able to do those things. So,
Thank
great
you.
partnerships with the state and the federal agencies provide this training free of charge. So it didn't cost us anything actually, other than our personnel's time to attend that training. So, thank you guys very much.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
And I do want to take a moment to congratulate. No, it's okay, Tony, you're fine. To congratulate the vice chair. I mean, I read the article where you've been chosen to go to another leadership training thing. I'm starting to feel the heat now. You know, but congratulations to you and the mayor of Huelta. I wanted to take the opportunity to also congratulate her. I mean, any of those trainings, and I've been to a few in the past, they certainly help you shape the way you see things, and they broaden your perspective. So congratulations on that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
It's the only way you can call me mister. The next item is, oh, wait a minute, is there somebody else with the
Oh,
public? Call to the public?
I'd like to make a few comments and talk to the public.
Sure.
I just want to thank Desiree for going out of her way that day that my flight was canceled, and she
Found a way to get you where you want?
well, she was doing something else, and it was on a Saturday, so she sent emails to the people that needed to present the resolution. So thank you, Desiree. I hate to
Didn't
ask-
pass, but it's okay.
I hate to ask, especially employees to do something on their weekend, so thank you for that. And I also want to thank Jen Marson. She presented the resolutions that I was supposed to present on Saturday, and they both of them passed. So thank you for doing that, Desiree. And the reason I couldn't send them was because my email with the password.
Yeah, the password expired.
that,
It's email.
we have to update our password every 45 days. I couldn't access my email, so the county email, so it was frustrating, but it was done, so. And also, thank you to our reporter. She actually was the one that gave me the idea or called people to present the resolution, so thanks to her too.
Is that it?
That's it?
Yeah, no, and I don't want to, pass on the opportunity to add my thanks to everything that the staff does at a time. I called up on Friday afternoon to find out some details about the air show, and Dunya, really got on the ball, and there was some people missing, but we finally tracked down the invitation that was sent in an email to my county email, which some of you may know I don't check very often. So anyway, having admitted that, I'll move on to something else a little more productive than the confessions, okay? So we'll move on to presentation, proclamations, and appointments. Is there any appointments to be made up here that you want to announce? I do want to remind everybody that we're going through a process with the Parks and Recreation Commission that may necessitate reappointing or appointing new members to that commission. I still haven't found a way to explain to them what they're supposed to do, because I think that every once in a while, appointing them to a commission that has very little to do or had very little to do, it's very difficult to explain to them what sort of benefit their participation will bring. But we do need to, if we're going to reactivate that, and I think we need to go through that explanation and get that item up in the agenda so that we can discuss it all together. We're going to need to bring in a couple of appointments from each district, and I know that Supervisor McLeod, I think, already has, I don't know if it's a couple of people or one person to appoint. So you need to find your people, you got it, and then make the appointment formal during the meeting like this. So go ahead.
I need to appoint Rosalie Lyons and Tim Gilliland, who formerly served on there. So I appreciate their willingness to serve.
Okay, anyone else?
Let's go ahead and make mine. Linda Elliott and a Barbara Kavanaugh.
Okay, that's from 2 districts. Anyone else? We're gonna have to go contact new people, because I know Louis was in that commission, Louis Gradea, so I need to get in touch with him and see if he wants to continue, and then I'll find another person. But we need to get this thing organized pretty quickly, so please, all those Democrats that have to appoint someone, they start looking for someone.
Yes, sir.
I wasn't going to point that out.
Be happy to.
Okay, the next item, unless there's something else from the public or any proclamation or anything, any other comment on this particular item, we'll move on to the presentation of the county line by Yuma 77, the Yuma County Government Channel, which we.
Pedestrians using a certain crosswalk in Yuma County are about to see a safety upgrade. Local students battle it out in court, but it's not what you think. And helping first responders prepare for the unexpected, our health district helps bridge the gap of communication. These stories and more, this is your County Line. A new signal will be popping up soon at the intersection of 5th Street and Avenue B. It's not a traffic signal light, but it's the first device of its kind that will be installed by Yuma County. You may not know it, but our development services engineers are constantly evaluating our roads to keep us safe. Traffic at 5th Street and Avenue B has become increasingly busy. There's also a lot of people crossing the street at the location. A study showed federal guidelines did not recommend a traffic signal. However, due to the presence of pedestrians and existing sidewalks, the county will now install a HAWK system. Put simply, a high-intensity signal that will alert drivers that pedestrians are in the area and about to cross the street.
A HAWK system basically is a traffic signal for pedestrian crossings. If you're familiar with a traditional traffic signal, a HAWK system is pretty much the same, except it only activates when there is a pedestrian. The lights are always off if there are no pedestrians. As soon as you activate it, the lights come on and allow the pedestrians to cross safely.
The new pedestrian signal system was recently approved by the Board of Supervisors, and work is expected to begin within the next month. Given there are no delays, our engineering staff is hopeful the new crossing warning system will be operational by the end of June. Recently, the courtroom heated up at the Yuma County Justice Center, and the attorneys pleading the cases might have seemed wise beyond their years. That's because high school students were honing their skills practicing law. Teams made up of students from Cibola, Lake Havasu, and Yuma Catholic high schools competed as attorney advocates in a trial scenario. Actual judges from Yuma County preside over the courtroom while the students present their case. Overall, the mock trial setting is designed to give students a better understanding of the legal system.
Kids in high school, they're teenagers, not all of them are very comfortable speaking in public and in front of a judge who, for most people, that is one of the most respected positions in a legal situation. And it can be very intimidating. And through these type of competitions, they get to do that in real life, practice it, and be rewarded for it because judges give their feedback, and some kids are outstanding, honestly.
And with that better understanding, they can continue an education in law, hopefully to return to Yuma as attorneys. Congratulations to Cibola High School for entering 2 teams, both of which took first and second place in the competition. Next up for these young attorneys will be the state competition, held in Phoenix later this month. Today we're giving you an inside look at the responsibilities of the Clerk of Superior Court. We have information on resources they provide and forms that can be found online.
The Clerk of Superior Court is the official keeper of the court record. I'm also the fiduciary agent for the courts. We collect all the fees and fines when people come in and open new cases and distribute spousal support, restitution. We're in charge of keeping a big database on child support. We enforce collections and court orders. I'm also the jury commissioner and the probate registrar for Yuma County. You can file name changes and things like that with us, but obtaining an actual copy of a birth certificate doesn't come through us. We open approximately 5,000 new court cases every year. I have to have a representative in every court hearing. I have a whole section of folks that go and attend court in every judge's division, and they have to take minutes on all of those hearings. The law library is a really great resource for us, and we're so pleased to have a full-time employee at the law library now, and she's very knowledgeable. We are not here at the clerk's office, not able to give legal advice, and neither is the law librarian. However, she's a great resource for people that can't or don't want to have a lawyer or can't afford a lawyer, and she can direct them to the correct forms to file and give them some guidance on how to fill them out. Primarily, in the past, we've been an all paper file system. We're only doing civil cases for our initial kickoff with electronic filing, and we'll expand that to other case types as we work out the kinks with the civil filing. The county website has a section for the clerk's office and for Superior Court. There are links to sites to obtain forms on there. And anyone can get forms from any county. Even though it doesn't say Yuma on it, you certainly can use another county form. You just have to mark through that county and write in Yuma County, and we will still accept those forms.
Don't forget, there's a lot you can do on our website without having to call the Clerk of Superior Court's office. Just visit yumacountyaz.gov and locate the court's pages under Government.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth, and this is your Health Watch. The Yuma County Public Health Services District, in collaboration with Save Kids Yuma County, hosted a special series of trainings. These trainings were held for first responders and families with children living with developmental or intellectual disabilities. The goal of these trainings is to build bridges and minimize the risk of injury and escalation for the vulnerable population. The first training, Be Safe, is a community skill building training whose intended audience is for individuals with developmental or intellectual disabilities who are accompanied by their parents or caregivers. The second training, EMS and the autism community, equips EMS personnel with information about autism spectrum disorders. The third training, Navigating with Knowledge, equips law enforcement officials with relevant information necessary to interact more effectively with individuals diagnosed with disorders. Concluding the three trainings, participants had the opportunity to interact in a safe environment and practice what they learned during the community safety event. This is all for now. Until next time, stay healthy, Yuma.
Before we go, we want to remind you of some classes that the Law Library is offering. The upcoming Divorce Child Custody Informational Forum will be held at Yuma County Superior Court on Friday, March 30th from 10 to 11:30 a.m. The clinic is part of a series of sessions offered by the Yuma County Law Library designed to assist self-represented individuals with various case types. The clinic will be given in English with a Spanish interpreter present. This event is made possible with the collaboration of Community Legal Services, Conciliation Court Services, the Law Library, Yuma County Bar Association, Clerk of the Superior Court, and others. We'd like to thank you for joining us for this County Line. If you'd like to watch past episodes, log on to yumacountyaz.gov/VOD. And don't forget, you can join us live on Facebook. We'll see you next time.
All right. That was gimmick right there. Yeah. All right. After that entertaining portion of the agenda, we'll move on to the consent calendar. The following items are listed under the consent agenda and will be considered as a group and acted upon by one motion with no separate discussion unless a board member so requests. In that event, the item will be removed from the consent calendar for separate discussion and action. There are items 1 through, there's a lot of them, 1 through 16? 1 through 16. Does anybody want to pull any of them out for discussion? And if you don't have anything to pull out for discussion, I'll entertain a motion to approve the items 1 through 16 in the consent calendar.
So moved as presented.
There a second?
Second.
There's been motion and second to go ahead and approve all consent items as presented, items 1 through 16. Any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The motion carries. We will then move on to the Housing Governor Board meeting, and I will entertain Daniela. Is Daniela here? Daniela Vega? No, she's not? She's not? Okay, all right. So that's also on a consent calendar. So we have one item, which is authorize the chairman to sign the Valley Vista Sewer Lift Station and Force Main easement, which grants, conveys, and transfers to the Somerton Municipal Property Corporation to enter upon, survey, construct, reconstruct, and maintain a sewer lift station and force main for the installation of the lift station, force main, and associated appurtenances within, through, under, and across a strip of land situated in the county of Yuma, described in Exhibit A of the easement. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent item?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's been motion and second to approve the item on consent. Any discussion? Well, there won't be any discussion. All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Item, the housing item is done. Thank you, Gloria. That was really tough. And then we move on to discussion and action items. We will open each of the following items separately for discussion and action as appropriate. We have item number 1, Human Resources, which is requesting action to approve the 2018-2019 medical premium rates and plan design options effective July 1, 2018. No increase in the employer contribution and no increase for the employee contribution for, well, it must be E and family or something, EE.
EE
Employee
employee.
and, yeah, that's right. Contribution from Plan 2018-2019 to, there will be an increase to the PPO of 500, of the PPO's 500 deductible to a 600 deductible, an increase, and we would increase the $20 primary care physician copay to $25 copay, and increase the 30 specialist copay to 35 specialist copay, to include a third plan PPA option with a 70/30 coinsurance, a 1,000 deductible, 6,000 maximum out-of-pocket expense, 30 PCP, and 40 specialist copay, an option to utilize the SSA Mexico network. Let me tell you, that was like a difficult, PPA, OPP, that kind of stuff. I mean, I'm sure that most people in your field understand all those, But anyway, go ahead and start and explain to us what all these things means. I do understand one thing, and I do want to emphasize that. You were not asking for an increase on the policy, right? That is almost unheard of at this time, at this particular time. So just give us the good news so we can actually get it done.
Get it done?
Yeah.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors. I'm Felicia Frausto, Human Resource Director. On February 13th, we presented the 2018-2019 premium rates for our health plan. At the BOS retreat, we identified that our health plan would be increased by 1%. We took the information back to the Yuma County Employee Benefit Trust on the 28th of February, and as you'll see here, our recommendation, or the information that we presented to the YCBT, is to, as stated, we would like to be able to have our current premium at a 0% increase to our employees. But with that, we also recognize that we need to make some plan design changes because of the ever changes that are occurring in the market, and to also provide any offsets that we need to prepare for our future excise tax. And what we've asked at that point is to be able to increase the deductible by $100, as well as make some changes to the copay. But we also heard from our employees throughout the course of this year that having the PPO plan option 1, which is the buy-up plan, otherwise very known as the generous plan, and they're able to utilize the SSA Mexico network. We have the high deductible health plan, but they're not able to go across the border to utilize that Mexico benefit because of the fact that, according to the IRS, it recognizes that it's one carrier provider. And so having 2 benefit networks, it shows that they have 2 medical insurance plans. But we have it all tied into our one medical insurance plan. So what we would like to be able to do or propose is that we would add an additional plan, and that is the PPO option 2, and that would be considered at a slightly higher deductible. As you can see over here to the far right, it would have a deductible of $1,000. The copay for your primary care physician, otherwise known as the PCP, is $30, and with your specialist, it would be $40, and I believe that just moved quickly. And the actual overall coinsurance on our PPO option 1, it's an 80-20 plan. This would be a 70-30 plan, so that means the employees are the insurance is going to pick up 70%, and the employees pick up 30% in network. But they're able to utilize their Mexico benefit of $3,500 individually, or $7,000 as a whole for the family. With this introduction for our employees, this is what the cost would be to that 3rd tier plan. So as you can see there, this information is slightly higher. They still receive the benefit with regards to the wellness benefit. So we definitely encourage all of our employees to participate with that wellness incentive. The wellness incentive really is very simple for them to achieve. A health risk assessment that they complete online. They see their annual physician to get their annual wellness exam, and then all that information gets submitted into Blue Cross Blue Shield, and that permits them the opportunity to get that discount. So what we're asking here today is that the Board of Supervisors would look at our plan design changes that we have just suggested, as well as implementing the new PPO plan option 2 for our employees effective July 1st of 2018 with a 0% interest, 0% premium rate for the employees.
All right,
Any questions?
that was easy. Any questions? Really, it's actually anticlimactic. You know, I mean, you know, it's like whenever there's a 2 or 3% increase, I mean, it's like a big deal. And, you know, and to me, my concern, and I'm a member of the benefit team, was simply that we don't, if the plan requires for us to increase a certain amount, and when we don't do that, in other words, when we go back and say, well, we don't want to, you know, follow that recommendation and come up with other ways, I just don't want us to get really behind the 8 ball and then have a bigger plan increase because we didn't take a small plan increase at the time that it became, you know, necessary to do so. But in this particular case, you guys found a way to rearrange things so that we don't actually lose any ground in terms of covering what the plan needs to cover to stay as a healthy plan. So I was pleased because, you know, it's like being pregnant. You can be a little bit pregnant. If you increase it like 1%, you increase the fee. And to me, that was a very good plan you guys came up with.
Mm-hmm.
And I was happy to support it then, and I'll be happy to support it now if the rest of the board, you know, agrees. with
Mr.
it.
Chairman,
Yes?
the $10 copay and the $5 copay and the increase in deductible is an excellent way to not have to raise premiums and not have to raise the amount that employees and employers have to pay. So this is a very, very win-win situation here. So thank you.
Communicate.
Thank you, Tony. You're on it. Thanks.
Any other questions? Only good comments, please.
No, I think we'll have some strategy meetings later on, I think, so, thank you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, then I'll entertain a motion to go ahead and approve the item as presented. Because it's too long to repeat.
So
Well, if
moved.
you're gonna let us off that easy, yeah,
So
I'll make a
moved.
motion. Second.
Yeah, it's been a motion and second to approve the medical premium rates and plan design. Any other discussion? It was very good. Most of the opinions were well. The negative ones, they kept to themselves, so, you know, we move on. All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Motion carries. All right, thank you. It was a very powerful PowerPoint presentation. Number 2, County Administrator, General Services, update and discussion on possible action regarding the testing and the interim improvements at 197 South Main Street.
Good morning, Chairman Reyes, members of the board. Dave Hillen, Director of Facilities Management, here with what may be one of the last updates for the project across the street at our annex. I'm happy to say all the work continues to progress well, on time and under budget. Our general contractor is wrapping up his portion of the work this week. All the walls have been closed up, sealed up, and completed. Our cleaning subcontractor is coming in later this week and will extend into next week to do the final clean of the premises across the way. The firm that conducted the indoor air quality testing, ATC, they expect the results back from the lab today. We'll analyze them and put the report together over the next week, and we'll be coming down the following week to present their findings and any final recommendations they may have for us. I don't have a firm date on that, but as soon as they do have those results back, she'll be able to schedule the meeting with us.
Mr. Chair, can you
Sure.
send them to us?
Yes, I will, absolutely, as soon as they're
Thank
received. The 2 alternates that we're pursuing with this work, the sidewalk and the air conditioning unit, are also progressing. The contract's been awarded for the sidewalk work, and just to avoid conflicts, we're waiting until the interior contractor is complete with his task. So we have them scheduled to begin the 1st of April with the replacement of the portion of sidewalk.
Whoa.
Outside, where the glass is.
Hold on a minute. Before he moves on, want to clear it?
And the glass block?
The glass block, again, it was presented as an alternate, and we had 7 contractors bid, not a single one of them included a proposal for the glass blocks. The verbal explanation was that they didn't want to be held liable for damage or leaking of the blocks after they're replaced.
They did just fine 50 years ago. Look,
You just
I'm
know-
sorry, but any other entity that had to replace that sidewalk would have to include glass block. Any entity other than this one.
If it was
That's the rules in
on the historical
downtown.
register, I don't think.
No,
we
we're not
are.
on the historical register.
That's what it means. It means we're not
Building's not on
bound
the
by it.
historical register.
But
Well, I think anything you do downtown.
It's one of those sort of problematic areas that if they can be avoided, they would like to, the contractors, for that reason. Keep in mind too, while it may have provided some aesthetics on the exterior, the method recommended by our structural engineer was to put a solid steel plate underneath the sidewalk, so any blocks wouldn't have brought any light into the basement. They would only be visible from the outside.
so it wouldn't have, it would just be cosmetic then, what you mean? Is that what
Yes,
you mean? It wouldn't serve a purpose of lighting it, providing some natural lighting. It would just be so it looks like they used to.
Visible from the outside.
Mr. Chair, and
Yes.
Judge, the whole area that is on is all chained up with equipment in it anyway. I mean, it's all storage, right?
We've actually moved the items out, it's empty underneath, but it is
It would be storage.
open to the basement area
Yeah.
underneath, yes.
Move on as fast as possible.
No, I'm looking for help from legal to say, hey, you gotta follow the rules.
That is the rule. The question is, okay, so are we okay with this?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, county buildings are not subject to the city's historical
That's exactly
regulations.
my point.
Yeah.
Anybody else that owned that building, they'd have to go back to the glass block. Right?
Now, any federal, state, county would be exempt.
Yes.
Of course they
Anybody
would.
else in the private sector?
Government always loves to exempt itself from the
Mr.
rules
Chair,
everybody else
yeah.
has to live by.
Mr. Chair, and
Oh,
Ed,
hold on a minute. Okay,
because the
Supervisor
building
Pycroft.
isn't, Mr. Chair, and Ed, because the building's not part of the historical registry, does it have to, would those people have to, would individuals who own that property have to
It would be a city of Yuma.
put in the glass blocks? I thought it was only when it was part of the historical register that it had to be restored to its exact.
Yeah, I don't know what the historical district would require, but it would be something that they would require on a private party.
I was told they would require it.
Oh, were you?
For a
And if it's
private-
not historical, why are we so proud of the plexiglass over E.F. Sanguinetti's signature in the basement, right?
Well, it's,
We're
yeah,
very
but
proud
it's
of the
still-
history
I know, but it's
until
not a
it comes down
historical.
to,
It's not on the register. Maybe we need to get it on the register, huh?
The plans for the sidewalk were submitted to the city for approval, which would trigger a review by the historical commission, and we didn't receive any comments back from them.
of course not, it's government. It's exempt from the rules that everybody else has to follow.
Well,
You know what,
move.
Mr.
Yeah,
Chairman?
yeah, I
You know
know.
what?
I know.
How about we do this officially? How about if I make a motion that we require the glass block to be installed, and then it can fail on a vote?
All right.
So
Do you, I'm not, oh, hold on a minute. Just let us take some time to disappoint the vice chair. All right, here's a motion to, to install the glass blocks there, no matter what the requirements actually are, but, okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, there's a motion and a second. All those in favor of replacing the glass block in there as originally was, say aye.
Aye. That was
All
three
those
ayes.
opposed?
Like three.
All right, there was aye. So that failed 3-2. Just move on.
I appreciate it. The second alternate was the AC unit, is the AC unit.
I know.
Being
I let you do
installed.
it. I let you do it, but let me just not go back in the history of why I didn't want that, to do the improvements in that building so
We
far.
could maybe paint a.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Don't go there, don't go
No.
there, just keep going.
Very
Let's
good.
keep going, yeah.
The AC unit for the ballot machine room is,
Wouldn't even
there's a
be
site
there
walk with
if I-
contractors tomorrow, and the bids are due back by the end of the month, the 30th as well. So, no, we don't anticipate any surprises there. If desired, I could provide a final accounting next time we meet. We're coming in, like I said, well under the budget that we proposed for this work. So, should be all wrapped up by the next board meeting when we're reporting in.
I do
Oh, I'm
have.
sorry, yes, we do actually. I forgot about that. Instead of just talking about it all the time, we do have some.
Don't worry about it. We don't.
Again, this is the floor plan that was given to the contractors for the work that we were requesting that they be done. This was some images you saw before when we brought this up originally. This was the wall back in November, the west wall facing us actually, interior, the exposed insulation and whatnot. And this is how it looks now. Actually, it's a little bit better. We're already getting it cleaned up across the floor. Biggest difference you may notice is the ceiling and the lighting.
You can use that as storage.
It can be used on this end. You'll see some cords plugged in on the right side. There's a number of outlets around the perimeter that can be used for ballot testing before elections. It just can't be permanently occupied, regularly occupied. This is the east end, facing the back parking lot back in November, and as it looks now. And then finally up on the mezzanine level.
There are no glass blocks anywhere in this place.
Glass blocks and refrigerators, we're gonna hear about those for a while.
This is the west end on the mezzanine level, the mechanical equipment, and you can see on the floor the old rubber backing and the old carpet that had been there previously, and how it looks now. It's been closed in. There's an access door on the back side, so we can still get to our equipment for servicing. And you can see a strip down the middle of the flooring here where we opened it up to get it cleaned out, the interior space of the flooring. Now have it sealed back and painted up.
Thank you.
My biggest question is, how does the employees there feel about it? I mean,
I meant to say that last as well. And that's obviously the main thing we're looking at. And the good news is we've not received a single. We've encouraged them, if they're experiencing anything at all, to continue to report it so we know and have a direction to follow. And we've not received one comment or complaint.
Negative comment.
So, right.
Okay, good. That's progress.
That is progress.
Other than the decision on the glass block, is there any other thing that there's no action in this item, right? Okay, well, it was put in as a discussion and action item, so that motion, I think, fell within the reach of.
Oh, if not, they would have let me know.
I'm sure that the legal people would have told us, you can't do that. All right, the next thing on the agenda is the planning and zoning agenda. Thank you very much. In the planning and zoning agenda, we always say that the full legal description of the property sites for all rezoning cases are available for public review at the Yuma County Board of Supervisors office. We're going into reversion hearings in accordance with section 404.01, parentheses I guess, or L, parentheses 7 of the Yuma County zoning ordinance. The board will conduct a hearing to grant an extension of time to comply with the schedule for development, determine compliance with the schedule for development, or cause the property to revert to its former zoning classification in the following cases. Case number 1, Development Service Planning and Zoning Division brings in rezoning case number 04-36, again in accordance with the same section 404.01. The Yuma County zoning ordinance, action to grant an extension of time to comply with the schedule for development or cause the property to revert to its former RA-10 zoning classification of assessors parcel number 754-46-006 through 009, located at the northwest corner of the intersection of County 17.5 Street and the alignment of Avenue A and 5/8, Summerlin, Arizona. We will get a PowerPoint presentation.
Juan Leal Rubio, Senior Planner with the Planning and Zoning Division. As you mentioned, this is rezoning case number 0436. This is a slide that shows the original map as it was presented back in 2004, showing the parcels in the middle. This is how the property now was split in 2006. The applicant has not, or the property owners have not met the conditions of the schedule for development, other than recording an easement on the east side of the properties. They have not constructed the road that was required on Avenue 8.5. I'm sorry, at County 17.5 Street, and then have not improved the easement on the east side of the property. This is how the property or the street looks right now, looking west along Avenue 8.5. looking east along County 17 Half Street. Looking northeast from County 17 Half Street at the private access road, the easement that was dedicated on the east side of the properties. The deadline to comply with the schedule for development was December 6th of 2017. The board has two options: to either grant an extension of time or revert the zoning to its original RA10 zoning classification. And staff is recommending that the board revert this case back to the original zoning classification of RA10. Staff has met with three of the 5 current property owners. The 3 property owners expressed interest, or they actually support the reversion of this case back to RA10, and then coming back at a later date with maybe a request for commission initiative to take this back, bring this back to the board under a new zoning classification, under a new zoning case. And that concludes staff's presentation.
All right. We gave 6 months last time? The deadline to comply July 18, 2005, and then we granted an extension of time of 6 months?
We were here back in October, I believe, and
Weird. That we give them
they
6
were
months.
granted a 3-month extension.
Oh,
They had to comply in December, and after meetings with them, letters, we brought this back today for further action.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair?
Just remind me why we gave them
The
such a
people
short.
were in here and they were
Yeah,
trying
Mr.
to
Chair,
get
one-
together with their neighbors.
Oh,
Get that
Remember?
access.
That's
Mr.
right.
Chair, wasn't this the piece where the guy sold it to all these individuals and they didn't know that they had to
Right.
have, that it
That's
had to
correct.
have? Yeah, this was one of the first ones I ever heard, and I was just totally upset. So, and these are the same 3 people who have those lots that they can't build on, correct?
Chairman Reyes, Supervisor Pancrazi, that is correct.
So,
Go ahead.
you know, Juan, the problem I have with this, everybody's between a rock and a hard place, because if they bring it back one at a time, then we're going to, if we don't put the same requirements on them of getting the road built, then we're going to participate in allowing the original property owners to circumvent the rules.
You mean the one that sold it to them?
Yeah, the one that sold it to them. They have pocketed the money from the sale, not developed the road, and then you have these individuals come back in and say, well, I want to rezone this little piece. You know the board's not going to require them to build that road.
Just part in front of their house.
And so in the end, they get developed and the road doesn't go in. So we've been complicit in assisting the original property owner.
I don't know
with
about being
circumventing the
complicit.
rules.
I think that you're complicit in fixing a problem that maybe we should have worked and not allow it to happen. But, I mean, for some reason, I find that, I follow the logic. The logic is, look, somebody did something in there to take advantage of a situation, a loophole, maybe, if you want to call it. Somebody, took advantage of a loophole, sold some properties with, and I don't know if these people that bought the property ever thought that there was going to be an improved road in front of them. I don't know if they were ever told there's going to be a gravel road or a Haven road. I don't know if they were told that. Obviously, it's a problem anyway. I mean, they're all going to be in a, what do you call that, non-compliant situation? What do you call it?
Non-conforming.
Non-compliant? I thought we had another word for it. But at the end of the day, we're going to be asked to solve a problem. The way I look at it, and it's a problem that was created because at some point in time, we didn't make the rules clear enough. And, we certainly allow some things to happen that shouldn't have happened. I think it's progress. I mean, as bad as it sounds, I think it's progress that we're now looking at these situations much more closely. And I don't know whether fixing that problem, not fixing the problem punishes the wrong people, I think. I mean, people have already been taken advantage of, now are dealing with a non-compliant issue where they may not be able to build on a property they purchased thinking it was okay. So I guess we'll deal with it when it comes to us. Right now, the case before us is not what's going to happen next. It's what's going to happen now and what we're going to do about it. And I think we need to make it clear to anyone over there that the county has no responsibility to build that road, period. And that if you, if you bought or if you're buying, property there, you need to be aware of that.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I was just going to ask a question. You said you met with 3 of the 5?
Yeah, these are the ones that.
Or any of those 3, the ones that came to our meeting?
Chairman Reyes,
Previously?
Supervisor Simmons, I believe 2 of those 3 that we have been in contact with actually came to the meeting.
And they're fine with,
Are the other 2 properties sold already to somebody else, not the original owner? Do you know? Or does the
One of them
original?
is, Chairman Reyes, one of them is still owned by the original agent, and the other one that hasn't contacted is a different property owner.
Agent meaning realtor?
Agent is the
Guys.
person that represented the original applicant, or the company that represented the original applicant.
So,
Mr. Chairman?
sure.
I want the
The
original
people who
applicant.
have bought those properties, I mean, do they have
Any
a
right?
cause of action against the original property owner? And in which direction, if we revert it or leave it the same, would it strengthen their cause of action? Or do they have any? Is it just simply buyer beware and too bad?
Mr. Chairman, we can't comment on whether they have a legal action or not. We're not familiar with the details of the purchase and where they stand and what was talked about.
So I logically, Supervisor McLeod, logically, to me, logic will indicate that if it remains the way it is right now, they have less of a case to say that they were wrong. I think that if we revert it back to what it used to be, then they can say, look, this was done, it wasn't completed. The process was never completed. And as long as it's an open case, they can always claim, well, we're in the process of fixing it. And, it could continue on for some time. So one way or another, we need to get this resolved. And I think that the first step to get it resolved is to revert it back and see what, individually they're going to try to do. Because if I heard you correctly, the idea is to try to come through as a commission initiative, to try to come through on an individual basis and try to, bring them into compliance. I'm not sure that's going to work, but at least we're giving them an option to solve it. Is that correct?
Chairman Reyes, I believe in conversations with the 3 property owners, I believe they're probably going to come back to staff with a petition as a group, maybe 3 out of the 5 property owners, to initiate a commission initiative to include all 3 of them as part of the new rezoning case. Not knowing what the other 2 property owners, the one that hasn't been, the other 2 that have not contacted staff, not really sure if they will participate, but we will notify them.
All right. In this particular case, because it's 5 parcels, they weren't required to put in, paved streets and sewers and stuff, right? They were only required to build to dedicate a right of way and build a road, some sort of road surface to allow them access, right?
Chairman Reyes, they were required to actually improve County 17.5 Street as their main access and improve it and dedicated a private easement along the east side of the properties and improve that with a gravel road standard.
So they were supposed to connect those properties to improve County 17.5 to that point,
Right.
and then, provide a right of way so they can have access to all these properties. Oh, man, yeah.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, sure. Supervisor McLeod, sorry.
Do we
Supervisor
have,
McLeod?
do we have a method where the property owners could each put a portion into I don't know, for lack of a better word, a trust or into a fund that eventually would, once all 5 develop, would pave County 17.5? Do we have that kind of a mechanism? I think the city does. I don't know.
Chairman Reyes, I don't believe that we do have anything in place.
I mean, look, I know that we're, I know that we're talking about a lot of options, and I know this is probably the time to talk about some of these options, but the issue that's in front of us is a reversion issue, right? It's not anymore about who's going to provide what. It's about going back to the original stage. And I guess if they come to us with a commission initiative, then we can talk to them about, hey, can we work this into this deal? so that you guys can get your zoning, but there's a certain amount of responsibility that comes with it, and that's to connect. You know, you either understand you're not getting that connection, or you understand that we'll create a trust fund or whatever, if it's legally possible, to be able to fund the portions that need to be improved. In other words, that's going to be part of the cost of getting this rezoned.
Well, as much as I hate to admit it, you're right. No, you're perfectly correct.
So can we
The way
talk
you
about
evaluated that, I guess for me, I would ask staff,
to look?
you've heard the discussion, so. when this
Supervisor
does start
Fortes,
coming back.
he had his hand up.
I just want to make a comment, you know, and kind of referring back to an earlier comment that we always want someone else to do things that the county does not do. So we want buyers or property owners to improve a street when the county doesn't do it. So here we go, you know, we're going to be in this situation for a while because there's about 117 cases or 40-something cases about this. So
Conversions?
No, it's not quite that many.
Brother, right, no, it's not that many, I apologize, Mr. Porches. Actually, I believe there's like, we came down to like 40, 50 cases, and we're actually at the last stretch of presenting cases back to you. I believe there's maybe like 10 to 15, or maybe 10 to 15 cases that will be brought back to you for either reversion or extension.
But, you know, regardless how many cases there are, I mean, we got ourselves into that situation. So now we're expecting for them to do something that the county doesn't do, because there's 17 and a half or 17 and 3/4, and the county doesn't maintain it. So, but we
maintain it. We just don't improve it.
Well, don't improve it. And we started maintaining it, about 2 years ago, but it takes a long time to do it. But, and we expect property owners to do a big improvement on those roads when they buy a property. So
I think that what we need to do is we need to make it clear, and that's what I think needs to be done in a situation like this. We need to make it clear to people who go out in the county and get into a situation where they're living out in the county and all of a sudden start into this process of wanting all these urban improvements. And, we get into a situation where we're stuck with, okay, which streets, where do you go? And I'm sure that over at Lake Martinez, there's people who do the same thing. They get in there and then all of a sudden they find out that the road is not maintained that much by the county, but what we're trying to do now, as opposed, people who've been here 14 years or 20 years remember that there wasn't any particular rule in the past. That we have moved up into a situation where we're saying to people, look, if you're going to, ask us to allow you to zone down or zone up, whatever that description would be, which means removing the agricultural designation and coming up with a residential designation, that you now understand that when you go in there, you're going to be required to make some sort of improvements so that you won't later on come to the county and say, hey, why don't you do this? When you're being told up front, we're not going to do that. You're going to have to make that improvement because, we were forced to do that because people complain all the time. Why doesn't the county do that? We got into all kinds of arguments about, well, we can't. We can't go out and improve areas that, we have 3 or 4 people living in that whole area. To pave, 17 and a half street from one end to the other end to be able to provide paved surface to 3 or 4 property owners, it just isn't, something that the county can get into with the kind of funding that we have, especially over the last few years where we're not even getting the funding that we used to have. So anyway, at this particular time, the case in front of us is about reverting the zoning or leaving it as it is. Leaving it as it is, I think, is not a good option. Even the property owners understand that. We 6 months ago, we gave them an opportunity to try to resolve this issue between them. They obviously haven't been able to, so it's back to us, and we need to make a decision. And when they come back, and when we have cases like this, we need to remember, and I'm sure you will remind us. Supervisor Porches will be the reminder in chief. We don't do that anymore. We don't do it anymore. And so, the case in front of us is a reversion hearing. It's about us already having given an opportunity to these people to try to resolve it between themselves. I do understand your statement about, look, we basically put people in a situation where they sometimes get into this type of problem. We're trying not to do it anymore. And I understand what you're saying about, look, there's a lot, and there are a lot of areas like County 17 and a quarter, County 17 and a half, and I'm sure there's a lot of areas, other places that we need to start looking to see if there's anything we can do as a government entity, not necessarily just, require it from them every time they come to us. But at least at this particular time, I think we understand what the situation is. I hope we learned our lesson. And, we'll try to deal with it when they come back to us. And then it's an opportunity to discuss whether these people really should be made responsible for this, or whether we want to just resolve the issue of zoning as opposed to the issue of all the improvements that come with it. I think at that particular time, we may be able to say to them, look, if you get this zoning change, you're not going to get these improvements. And, we're just going to solve a problem that somebody else got you into, which isn't fair to you, but it isn't fair for the county residents to also pay for an area that.
Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
A question. Juan, parcels 10 through 13, are they developed?
Chairman Reyes, Supervisor McLeod, I don't believe all of them are developed. Some of them are developed, though.
Okay. And it currently just is a dirt road, 17 and a half?
17 and a half is a dirt road, yes.
Yeah, it's tough.
So they were able to develop without any
But you
improvement on
get it
17 and a half?
They developed a long time ago.
And what color are the houses? I'm
Yeah.
just kidding.
I'm sorry.
You have
yes.
a map, you should, it shows.
Take pictures then?
There's a picture up there of it, yes.
Those properties, I believe, were rezoned before we start requiring, or the board has to start requiring improvements
Hey,
on.
That's how those, okay, thank you. I
Yeah.
suspected that, but, okay, thank you.
This is pretty simple to me. It's a process where we've been going slowly but surely to a point where we realize that we're allowing people to develop in areas, and then, because they want to go live out in the county, and then they come back to us and say, why don't you maintain this, or why don't you pave this portion of it? And we decided, okay, if you're gonna go live over there, you're going to have some responsibilities. And we thought, okay, we put that on the owners of the properties when they develop to do that.
Right.
And then we get into a situation that we really didn't set it up well enough to prevent them from actually selling the property before they did the improvements. And that's where we're at.
Yeah, I think you got to that point right after this.
Yeah,
Yes,
I know.
we did.
And,
This was-
and look,
this
let
was
me,
the case that made us start
and let me
looking
say
at it.
something. Back in 2005, 2006, 2007, development was happening at a rapid pace. People were making a lot of money. So it wasn't difficult for them to agree to put in a paved portion, to improve a paved portion. When that dropped, when they fell down, what they went into was this kind of thing where they sold the property without putting improvements, and we didn't have the mechanism in place to take a look at that and to prevent that from happening. I think we're now wiser to that, and that, the likelihood of that happening is much, much reduced, and I think we're going to be doing better. But this is part of that. This is part of what happened at that time, and we're living with it now. Okay, now, hey, I forgot this, but we have to open this up to the public. So we'll have a public hearing, and unless the newspaper wants to say something, or Maggie wants to say something, I'll open it up to the public in general here. Is there anybody here that wants to address the board on any of this matter?
You can't
Other
let
than-
Maggie just sit there, no.
Yeah, we acknowledge someone. No, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the board. And again, when we talk about solutions, we may want to wait until they come to us. for a
Yeah,
solution.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we revert the zoning to its original zoning classification of RA10, rezoning case number 04-36.
I second it.
In motion and second, any discussion on this? More than what we had already?
I just want to say that I think we really need to start looking at that ordinance that we have, that if we want to avoid any more cases.
It's already
like
taken care of.
this.
Yeah, it's already
We
done.
took care of that like
In October and
10,
November,
12
yeah.
years ago.
Oh.
We changed that already.
Now you have
This doesn't happen.
you have to have a lot split permit now.
Yeah.
And you can't get that until.
You can't get that done anymore. I said, this was 2005, 2007. Back at that time, everybody was doing what they were
Yeah.
supposed to do. Then they stopped doing it, and this is what happened. And then we changed the rules so that you can't do that anymore. You have to have a permit to split the lots.
To split
Yeah,
now.
and now you can't do this.
You can't sell it. Yeah,
You can't sell it
split and
anymore.
sell until you do the.
Exactly.
improvement.
Improvements. These
10
are
years
all
ago or
previous
It
to
was like
that.
10, 12 years ago.
2008,
that happened.
2000, yeah.
So, and
This was before that.
It was
The
before
properties
that.
that we're looking
We
at
don't do
now
that
were
anymore.
all properties that.
I forgot to mention that.
Were rezoned before
You
that.
know, yeah.
Yeah,
I
before
forgot to
the
mention
lot.
that complainer in
Yeah,
chief.
before your, yeah.
I mean, I
ordinance.
can't
You already
remember, what's
did
the
that.
correct terminology of the lot split permit?
Land division permit.
Land division
We call it a
permit.
land division permit. All right, having said that, all those in favor of the motion?
This issue's been fixed.
Uh-huh.
Aye.
It's
Aye.
just all the ones before that.
Hey, that's very painful. I need to hear this. There's only two
Aye.
ayes. 3, 4, 5. 5 ayes. Anybody opposed?
That's like the worst vote
There was
I've
nobody
ever
opposed.
heard.
It was a very difficult motion to get through.
We were all.
We do have another division for hearing that I hope will be going a little bit smoother than this one, and that is development case, rezoning case 0540, which in accordance with section 404.01, parentheses I, parentheses 7 of the Yuma County zoning ordinance, action to grant an extension of time to comply with the scheduled development or cause the property to revert to its former SSB 5 zoning classification, assessor parcel number 724-18-004, located Avenue 4.5E in County 12.5 Street in Yuma, Arizona. Staff will give a PowerPoint presentation.
Thank you, Chairman Reyes, members of the board. Juan Leal Rubio, Senior Planner with the Planning and Zoning Division. This is rezoning case number 0504, a reversion to take the case back to the original zoning. We'll revert it. This is the map as it originally looked back in 2005, zoned as SB 5.
Yeah, 2005. A little
This
after.
is the current map.
Mhm.
This is a aerial imagery of maybe a couple years ago. The property, this is how the property looks right now. The schedule for development was not met, and again, they have to construct a road, 22-foot wide access road. The deadline to comply for the schedule for development was August 15th of 2007. And the board has the option of either granting the extension of time to comply with the schedule for development or reverting the zoning to its original SSB 5 zoning classification. This portion of the property sits undeveloped. It has not been split, and it's owned by the same person. The staff is recommending that this case be reverted back to its original zoning as SSB 5. We send out letters to the current property owner. We have not received any response.
One of these days, he will remember what he did in 2005 and then come over and complain. But the case in front of us is, it's kind of similar, it's just a lot bigger. I mean, and I think that, you know, at some particular point in time, and I don't necessarily, well, I do. I want to defend our position back in 2005 again. You know, these things were happening. Everybody was doing something, you know. I remember getting into arguments about how we were trying to defend agriculture, and the farmers were coming over and saying, don't defend us, you know, we want to do this. And it was at that heyday of development where everybody wanted to, you know, change their zoning from rural zoning, from, you know, agricultural zoning.
You know,
to the-
Mr. Chair, the other thing is that back
Many
in
acres is this?
2005, when all this was going on, we didn't have a PM10 and an ozone issue as far as non-compliance and marginal as we do now. So
Revert back to
part of
SSB
the
5.
reason that the county is
Is it
requiring
right
all
now?
this is because we need to make sure that we keep the dust down so that we don't go into PM10 and we can get our
We were.
No, we were already
good
there.
standing.
We were already there.
Oh, were you
That's
on
why
there?
we were,
And
that's why we
you
were
did it?
requiring.
Yes.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, we were there, and that's why the requirement was that you put a dust
That's why
free.
you
If
put it
see
on there back then,
that's
was
right.
because
It
of
was a dust free,
PM10
because
and ozone.
we were
Oh.
dealing
Not
with that.
ozone, but PM10.
PM10, thank you.
PM10, yeah. No, it was again, you know, a situation where we were trying to establish some
the dust, yeah.
guidelines, because development was happening like crazy, and it was happening all over the place, and people were complaining that, you know, we were not taking care of the improvements necessary to keep the dust down, to, you know, to those things. So we came up with this special combination of, you know, dust control with settling of, you know, it was it was the best thing we could come up with, short of asking them to pave it,
Right.
to actually pave it, because
Right.
paving was really expensive, and this was something that we
That's more
could,
affordable.
that we
Yeah.
could do, they could do without, you know, breaking the bank. But
This is kind of the county's version of development fees.
Mhm.
But anyway, the fact is that they didn't comply, and the fact is that they haven't said anything about it. The fact is that they development, what do we call it, development schedule wasn't met, and that the current property owners haven't said it, that they want it, zone as it is right now. They may even assume that it didn't take. So let's just make sure they realize it didn't. So is there a motion?
No.
Wait a minute, I gotta open it up. Any questions from the board? No, I'm gonna open it up to the public for public hearing. Is there anybody in the public that wants to address the board? Other than the county sheriff officer that looks like he wants to address the board, but they don't wanna come up here on some other issue. Is there anybody else? No? I'll close the public hearing, and bring it back to the board for their, discretion.
Mr. Chairman, on rezoning case 05-40, I move that we revert the zoning back to its SSB 5.
Is there a second?
Second.
Then motion and second to, on zoning case number 0540, revert the property back to its original designation, zoning designation. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
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 Anybody opposed?
Oh, that's how you do it.
Motion carried. Okay, now the other item is event calendar and current events. This is where board members and county administrator will report on and may discuss events attended to be attended on behalf of the county. We may present a brief summary of current events and may update the schedule for future board of supervisors meeting as appropriate. No legal action will be taken. Supervisor Pancrase, would you like to report?
I would, before I do that, today in the front page, thank you, Blake. The front page on the top portion of it has the water meeting that is planned for March 23rd at 10 a.m. at City Hall. And I encourage anybody and everyone to please attend, whether they want to speak or they don't want to speak. The number that show up at this meeting will let the Arizona State Legislature and the Central Arizona Project know that our water is not for sale and that we have plans for that water. So if you can attend, I would really encourage every single one of us in this room and everybody out there watching on Channel 77 to please attend that water meeting. It's very, very important. So with that, I'm going to go on to stuff I did. March 7th, I drove to Phoenix and I attended a water meeting. Senator Otondo has a lunch and learn kind of activity every Wednesday, and it's all about water. And she has guest speakers come in and explain to the legislators things about water. So I attended the one that had to do with Mojave County, and I hand carried the letter from this board that we're in opposition to the Central Arizona Project taking over 5,000 acre feet of Colorado River from Mojave County to put in their portfolio for services in Maricopa and Pima County. I also attended the floor sessions at the Senate and the House and handed those letters over to our legislators to make sure our legislators also knew that. Let's see, I'm gonna keep going. I attended the Medium County Caucus and ran that meeting for CSA, and then I attended the board meeting, and then Russell and I went over, and that was last Wednesday, and we went over or last Thursday, and lobbied our legislators and many others on the 15 county solution for the budget to help get some of the money back that we have, the state has taken. I attended the ozone meeting that Senator Flake is proposing legislation for that will finally just put an end to all of the issues that we have with the ozone. So I attended that meeting, and it was very, very, very profitable or interesting and informative. I spoke on Saturday to the Arizona Constitution class out at AWC, and I met with several constituents over this last 2-week period and was able to solve 2 or 3 constituent issues that have come up, and I that's the part I really enjoy. So.
Right.
Thank you.
Supervisor McLeod.
Yes, I also attended the County Supervisors Association meeting. I was privileged to be able to do interviews for Teacher of the Year. And tell you what, I've done it a number of times, and it's always so rewarding to meet with these teachers. They're just awesome. So gives you hope for the future.
Oh,
you
yes,
know?
our teachers in Yuma County are amazing.
Met with a power line group that wants to run another 500 kV line between
I
El
met with them
Centro
too.
and Yuma.
Mhm.
So a couple years out, but it's probably a good project. Got two 500 kVs coming into Yuma from the east, and two 500 kVs coming into El Centro from the west, and only a single line between.
Yes.
So it's kind of a choke point. We had fun at the tax auction. We missed Supervisor Reyes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't last time, though.
Also did the legislative policy committee meeting with CSA, and which I think you're going to be able to cover for me Friday, right?
I am.
Excellent. Attended the GYEDC meeting, and Supervisor Pancrazzi left out the part where her actions led us to be escorted politely but firmly from the Senate building.
We were wandering.
Which is true, isn't it?
Yes, we were wandering around visiting. Well, that's because I know everybody back there, and so I was out.
am never going there with her again. Oh my gosh.
Oh,
You
come
never
on.
heard so much. Woo! Oh, hi! Hugs! Like God. Nobody wanted to talk to me. They just all wanted to talk to her. It was humiliating.
Yes, but I would introduce him. I would introduce him, and then he would explain the 15 county solution. And he did such an excellent job of explaining the 15 county solution that we have come up with to get a large portion of the funds that the state has taken, used when they were in a recession to give it back to us. And he did an excellent job. So I introduced him. I say, okay, this is Russell McLeod. He's going to explain our 15 county solution, and he did an excellent job every single time.
Well, I want to thank you for that.
Yes.
Stop doing that. I've got a couple of supervisors that waiting for you.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I want to explain the 15 county solution.
Yes, please.
So I have to commend Craig Sullivan and staff for coming up with a very good plan. This basically would remove all of the sweeps except for Department of Revenue, and there's a good reason for that. But the sweeps that the counties have been experiencing, there are 5 of them, and so he has packaged them up together and said, if you relieve us of these, then we can participate in repairing EORP, the Elected Officials Retirement Plan.
For our
And
judges, yes.
then along with that, there's a circuit breaker that when the county's contribution, they'll set a number, we'll just call it 30%. So that retirement plan can start getting properly funded. And then the actuaries, when they compute what should have been in there each year, that the state would contribute over and above whatever the county's contributions are to get the contribution levels up to where they need to be. It's an excellent plan, and it seems as if there is actually some legs in the legislature.
Yes, there is. Yeah, there was.
Fairly promising, better than it has in the previous years, where all we got was just a definite no. And so commend them, CSA, they've done a marvelous job putting this together. And we did have a lot of fun walking through the House and the Senate, and we met our entire delegation, plus a few.
Yes.
So thank you, Supervisor Pancrazzi, you did a great job.
Thank you.
All right.
That's it.
That's it? I'm going to wait a minute or two just in case. Supervisor Simmons.
Held another community meeting out in the foothills, had APS present. A lot of questions for them with their new rate hikes and changes in their plans and stuff. Passed on a lot of good information to those that showed up. Attended the Mayor's Economic Summit, which was very interesting. A lot of people putting together, doing a lot in this district or in this area, the Four Corners, with the 2 states down in Mexico and then California and Arizona. Was out in the foothills area and ran across several ADEQ air monitors They've been putting together some readings, and hopefully we'll get some information back this week on their findings as far as the smell. That's been an ongoing issue out there.
Yay.
Attended some PRS training, and also attended the battle color ceremony at MCAS, which is always interesting to watch. And then some other stuff too.
Right. Supervisor Porches?
Yes, well, I attended meetings in DC, the ones that when I got there, I was able to get there.
When he finally
The
got
meetings
here.
went pretty good. I think we did an excellent job. Susan was there, and Tony. I think we met with the representatives and they did a pretty good job. So hopefully they'll look at our issues and help us there. Also attended the Mayor's Economic Summit, and it was well attended. I think it went good. So that's
All
about it.
right. I do want to talk a little bit. I mean, we went to the legislative conference from National Association of Counties. They're always interesting. The Immigration Reform Forum that we attended, I think that the key take from that meeting is that the immigration reform, every time you mention reform, it kills the process because everybody has a different perspective of what that means. But there's still a concerted effort to get some issues resolved. And at the end of the day, I think that the take from that was that the Immigration Reform Task Force needs to put out some position papers and, sort of gather support and try to push them forward. Now, the interesting, to me, the meeting with the legislators was obviously the most important part of going there. But the meeting at the White House, though, the invitation to attend a White House briefing with county officials was an eye-opener, at least for me. Not because I hadn't been there before, I've been there before, but because of how highly politicized the meetings become when you have to listen to, the first 10, 15 minutes of every presenter talk about how much has been accomplished in 1 year before you get into the meat of the questions, which was, for example, what's going to happen to PILT, as a prime example. The question is, what's going to happen to PILT? Is the administration supportive of it? Is it going to be a situation where PILT becomes not a fight every year, but something that we can count on? Their answer was no. You guys are going to have to come in every year with your tin can. I think that was the expression the guy used, with your tin can, asking for, that was like flat out, the word tin can was used. You are going to have to come with your tin can and beg for that every year because we don't see how that's going to change, type of thing. And in general, it was very, the infrastructure bill, which was something that we're all interested in. I wanted to hear what the structure of that infrastructure bill was going to be. And although, it was like 10 or 12 different agencies in there, right? Intergovernmental relation people talking about 10 or 12 agencies. Surprising part to me is that 2 or 3 of them were actually from Arizona. They were former senators or former corporation commissioner people.
Yes.
So that was good to me to see that we have so much representation at the federal level in key positions. That was really good for me to see, and that's probably one of the reasons why we got that briefing. That because there are people from Arizona there. But the message wasn't really that positive. It was more like, okay, we're doing a great job, and yes, we'll help you as much as we can, and we're going to keep pushing this and that. And there was more of a global. Getting a briefing from Kellyanne Conway was a little weird.
Yeah, I saw that picture.
It's a little weird because you don't think it's like a policy position, but we got an opioid crisis update from her, and so it was different. Let's put it that way. It was different than the ones I've attended before. If nothing else, because simply going into that level of briefing, it's a different situation. So that was interesting. And I do want to apologize. Nobody went to the air show this year, right? And I want to apologize because they changed the system. Before, they used to send us a paper invitation with everything on it. This time they send an email to my county email. They sent it February something. It was about the time I lost my, they changed my password, so I couldn't get into it. So even if I wanted to, I wouldn't have gotten it. So I had to go back after I got that, and I went back and look, and I need to be more attentive to that. And probably acknowledge the fact that I need to check a little more often, but I'm sorry because I made it a point 2 or 3 weeks ago or 2 or 3 meetings back that, if I wasn't going to go someplace, I would let everybody else know so that they could attend. And I didn't this time. So it was just, that's one of those things where I think I need to be a little more cognizant of what's going on. That's it for me. Susan?
Yes. So I did attend on March 3rd through 8th with Supervisor Porteous and Chairman Reyes, the NACO conference and the Capitol Hill visits. As Supervisor Porteous mentioned, the resolutions that we proposed to NACO for their national platform, 2 of the 3 passed, and those were support for the Federal Tax Intercept Program and support for full SCAP funding, which is the Criminal Alien Assistance Program. And one that did not pass is the H-2A worker housing resolution. However, we are going to take it back in July. I know Recorder Pouquet and Supervisor Porteous have begun talking about a game plan to educate the members of the committee because they seem to not really understand what the issue was. And so several people jumped to conclusions about what it might mean, and it kind of and were opposed to it right from the beginning instead of really listening to what the issues were. So we're hopeful that in July, when the next conference takes place for NACO, that committee will.
That's in Tennessee, isn't it?
It's Nashville, Tennessee. Yes.
Nashville? Make sure you make the reservations early,
yes.
especially for house, for the lodging, because it really, you end up in some hotel out there somewhere.
Are we able to at this point?
Yeah.
It's open now.
It's open
Yes,
already.
it is open now.
Yeah, please.
Then I did attend also the Mayor's Binational, the Forefront ED Economic Development Summit on March 15th. That was very informative, and people from all 4 fronts were there, so to speak. There will be more to come with that, and I think there was a lot of really good discussion among all those that attended about ways that we can improve education and workforce development, tourism, and economic development in general. So there was a lot of really good discussion and some action steps that were identified that can be taken to.
At the summit?
Yes.
I read the newspaper article, and I struggled to find any mention of the county's participation in this whole process. I know. I saw you. I mean, it's not that you didn't go and you didn't participate. It's that the newspaper really didn't mention much about your participation on it. Of course, I don't know if the newspaper representative is listening to me.
I didn't write
I
it.
read
Yay,
it.
Clay,
I read it.
that's right.
I read it.
That's
I read
right.
it, and I read it, and I didn't see any of you guys in there.
included.
Even the picture didn't have anybody from the county in it. But
Yeah,
it's-
that's right. That's right.
Yeah. No, really, and it's been an ongoing story for a long time. At least an ongoing gripe in my part, because if it's a regional thing and the county is not highly active in it, and I thought that with Paul participating and the participation of the new supervisor stuff, it would be more visible. But when you read about the Forefronted, it's the mayor of Yuma that goes and picks up an award in New York. When you read about Forefronted or economic development in the region, you hardly see the county participate. It's not probably our fault, but I think we've made a concerted effort to participate more actively now. And I just didn't remember. I didn't go there, so all I had to do is read the paper, and in the paper there was no mention.
There was active participation by Supervisor Simmons and Porteous both. So.
Thank you. Yeah, no, thanks. I mean, I know you guys participated.
Thank you.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah,
sir.
we need to make ourselves more visible, I think, probably with the other reporters that aren't.
You can
like-
just wear an orange pantsuit.
Or a green, hat with hair.
And I did want to make one comment that the resident survey is still open and available for people to fill out. It's online at our website at yumacountyaz.gov. And it's right there at the top of the page. You can just click on it and take the survey. It doesn't take more than 5 minutes. We've got data that shows that. So it's really easy to do, and we encourage people to continue to do that through March 31st.
How's it look?
We have had a boost last week. Kevin Tennell did a boost on Facebook, which increased I think we got about 200 additional responses after that. So it does make a difference, and if the newspaper would help to publicize that as well, that would be great. That's all.
All right. A couple of reminders. Coming up in April, we have April 11th, the Board of Supervisors Employee Appreciation Years of Service. Just make sure you put in your calendar. And then on the 20th, the Employee Appreciation Taco Dinner, family, movie night, Yuma Civic Center. You guys keep coming up with all the stuff. And in May, don't forget in May, we got the budget hearings. You know, between the 7th and the 12th, we're going to have a meeting on the 7th, a meeting on the 9th, a meeting on the 10th. So, you know, just make sure you mark your calendars. That's going to be a busy week. Okay?
Mr. Chair, just
Yes.
Don't forget the Yuma County Fair
Oh, yeah, the fair. Yeah.
and the meeting on Friday, water meeting, 10 o'clock.
Yeah, well, you announced that. Go ahead, Supervisor.
Just to follow up on the resolutions that were presented, you know, the one that H2A that wasn't approved or didn't pass, you know, since the very beginning when we presented it, just at in October to the board or delegation, you know, since then, I mean, it wasn't, I think the structure was not right. It was put together, or we didn't do enough research on it. We included, if you recall, we included mining, we included other stuff that really didn't pertain to here. So I think if anytime we're gonna present a resolution, I think we really need to do the research on it before we present it. I mean,
Narrow it.
Supervisor, yes, I think you're right. But I think that the H2A visa process gets caught up in the immigration issue. And it brings in, for example, when we presented it to Grijalva, the reception was much, you know, icy. You know, it was not well received. And the explanation they gave was more other things. And so when you present it to Gosar's office, they take it as an immigration issue as opposed to a farm labor issue. You know, we need to, so you're right. When we present it, we need to present it as an economic development tool, not, you know, an immigration. Don't put it in that context, because what we try to say, and I think we said it, was, for example, in Yuma County, it's gone from 40, 50,000 to 140 or 150 or 300,000. I think, I don't remember how many H2A1 visas are used now in Yuma County, but they certainly have increased 3 or 4 times what we used to use them for. And it's because of the increased scrutiny of border crossings. And so it gets caught up in that situation.
I think what Supervisor Fortes is saying is let's research ahead of time and maybe preview it with other stakeholders to make sure that what we're proposing is not going to have unintended consequences.
That's correct, because, you know, we present something that nobody else has heard about it. And so all of a sudden it's just like a defense, you know, no, not in our county or not in our state.
We don't need it.
We don't, but we really have to present it in order for it to.
So in order to gather some support before it gets there.
Yeah, and I know, you know, you delegated that to someone else, you know, to do the research, but maybe we need to really look at it, who really does the research on it, and so if we want someone to present it. So I think it's unfair to give a resolution to someone and just here go present it without having all the information about it and the research done. It's not fair.
All right.
The other thing is that it needs to be very narrowly crafted so that it just impacts agriculture along the border.
Yeah.
And not other.
And remember, it was a housing issue. It was to improve it. It wasn't to make any particular changes in who can come. It was to make changes so that it's easier for people, for the farmers here.
Yeah.
Because they're the ones impacted by it, not the people who get the visas. The people who get the visas, you know, they're to them, change means anything. It doesn't mean nothing. It's to the farmers and the agricultural field that it means something to have to house them. You know, so it wasn't an immigration issue to me. It was more like an agriculture issue. Okay, anything else?
One more thing real quick, just an update. Back in September, we did a resolution for Castle Dome Museum for a bypass in there. As of now, nothing has really been done, so Mr. Armstrong out there has closed the road through McPherson Pass. It is gated and blocked. I've got setting up a public meeting next week so the community come out and express their concerns over this issue, because like I said, it pretty much closes off the south end of the COFAs. The only way you can get into now is go all the way up to Stone Cabin and come in through King Road. And like I said, it's supposed to be public lands, and I hate to say it, Fish and Wildlife have dragged their feet to the point where it came down to where he had to close the road. So hopefully we can have a meeting, and I'm going to have both Fish and Wildlife there and Mr. Armstrong, and see if we can't push this through and get the bypass going, because it's dragged on way too long.
On another issue before we leave, the Cocopa tribe has already advised us that they have some money for us to distribute. They have asked that we do this with children and, to support children, and I think children of the elderly. But, I was thinking, I'll let you all know, if you have any suggestions. I thought maybe we could, look into programs that we haven't funded yet, things like the Boys and Girls Club or even the Boy Scouts, or, some other program like that, deals with children, especially children that need activities in the summer and need, places to do and places to go. So if you have any suggestions, let me know, okay? Because we're gonna put this in the agenda, and they wanted to have it done now, but we postponed it so that, we get some.
Boys and Girls Clubs is one.
Boys and Girls Club, I'm sure there's a lot of programs that need support.
Yeah.
Even the Girls and Boys Scout, or some of those programs.
Or
probably-
some swimming lessons.
That's right.
For this, the city has all those swimming lessons available, but a lot of people can't afford them.
That's-
Provide some free swimming lessons. for
It
kids,
becomes
so.
very difficult if you try to do it like on a piecemeal, like that many. But I
Okay.
mean, we have to take a look at some children's program that.
Yeah, that's
And it
already
may be
exists.
CASA or some of those
CASA, I was
programs, you know what I
thinking
mean?
CASA as
CASA
well.
or some of those,
Yeah.
that help children, adoption, some of those things are.
And the
come to mind.
juvenile, the program that juvenile has.
Yeah, well, why don't you, Desiree, get a list so we can start, get a list and then we'll circulate.
We're getting on the edge.
Pardon me?
We're not discussing.
No,
We're just talking.
she was looking for an answer.
I was looking at an answer for you. The juvenile department, every child can succeed.
Yeah, things like that. I mean, and we don't have to.
Kids of Hope.
Kids
Thank
at
you.
Hope. Those,
That's what I
we
was
don't have
looking
to
for,
give it to
Kids of
just
Hope.
one. We can give it to 5, and
Okay.
it'll help a little bit in each one of them.
Thank
Okay,
you.
so
That's
just
what I
make a
wanted.
list, and
Kids
then
of
we'll
Hope.
pick something. Okay.
Put my
Worthy.
grandchildren on there.
Few children. Anyway, look, let's go. Anything else? No. Meeting is done. Adjourned. Thank you very much.